Welcome to the Big Screen Symposium podcast. The Big Screen Symposium was held in Auckland at the Victory Events Centre on the 5th and 6th of April 2024. Celebrating New Zealand talent, the keynote address included 7 New Zealand actors with unique stories and outlooks. In this podcast, Robyn Malcolm shares her thoughts on our 2024 theme, Stepping into the Unknown. This session was presented by Te Mangai Paho.
Hello, tēnā koutou katoa. It's so wonderful to see you here. I am the first of a really amazing lineup, and we've been gossing out there, all going, what do you jam into 6 to 8 minutes? How do you? But so what I thought I'd do is just try and jam as many random thoughts about stepping into the unknown as I have, and the first thing I found this morning, and I was just sort of looking through all my books, and you'll all know it, was that wonderful William Goldman quote from his book, Adventures in the Screen Trade, and his first chapter is about studio executives, and the first thing he says is nobody knows anything. And he repeats it in caps a lot, over and over and over and over again, and then says something like, people pretend to know stuff because they know they're going to get fired at any given moment. And I just love that, because we spend, and I do, we all do, it's part of the human condition to want to know stuff, because that makes us feel safe. And as an actor, I guess it's because I have more confidence in myself as an actor and a performer. I learnt that as I start to know stuff, I have to start forgetting it, because knowing stuff is kind of the death of creativity. And so those two phrases, stepping into the unknown and nobody knows anything, are kind of perfect for us as creatives, because they work together. You know, I was talking to my 18-year-old son the other day, and he was like, I think I might make a short film. Can I make a short film? And I went, of course you're going to make a short film. What do I make a short film about? And I said, well, go outside, have a look. You know, there's a story in everything. And he sort of nodded and he said, but, you know, a lot of stories have been told. And I said, but you haven't told them yet. You know, your perspective, your eyes, your view, your way of seeing the world is completely unique and completely yours, and nobody knows it, not even you. And it's valid because of that. And as I was telling him that, I thought, God, I need to keep reminding that for myself, because, you know, I guess the other thing is that, you know, and this was something that we all as a collaborative group making after the party, I think I can say, hello, Peter Salmon, welcome back to Naotero. I've just seen that beautiful face. We wrestled constantly between that sense of wanting to know stuff, because usually I find that when people tell you they know stuff, they've made money out of something. And so that justifies them knowing something, because if I know this because this made me money, so I'm going to put this thing that I know over here because then that'll make us money. And again, death to creativity. And we were, as a little group of collaborators, constantly wrestling with that, you know, because you want to make your project successful, and you also want the people who are the gatekeepers to let it through, and they're in the business. You know, I could go on like this, like a pork chop about this for hours. So whoever's got a timer can just throw something at me. There's this book I read years ago by the sociologist called Lewis Hind, and it's called The Gift. And he talks about the gift culture in Southern California during the 1970s, and about how, you know, I grow broccoli and I give you broccoli and you give me half a goat or whatever. And after that, he sort of moves into the world of creativity and creation, and moves up to LA and Hollywood, and talks about screen storytelling, and about how every work of art should be seen as a gift, because that keeps it pure. And the problem is that we all want to do that, but we also work in a world of industry and commerce. And the minute the gift meets money, it corrupts the gift. And that's the problem for us, is to somehow make work that feels like a gift, that's not corrupted by is this going to work or is this not going to work? Is this going to make money or is this not going to make money? And that's something that's always, impacted on me over the years as an actress. Every now and then you hear a piece of direction which is something like, yeah, they're not going to like you if you do that. Or this is not, can we just make you more appealing? Can we just make you more... And again, it's like that's not the story I want to tell. Why are you wanting me to be more appealing? What is it that you know about humanity that I don't know? Another inspirational, I guess, story I heard once was, I think it was at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was panicking about something. And I watched an interview with Judi Dench, and she was talking about how she doesn't like to read scripts before she goes to a read-through, and that she likes to remain, because she likes to remain frightened, and she likes to remain in that place of not knowing. And she said, I like to feel at the beginning of any job that I'm falling out of a plane backwards without a parachute. And hopefully I'll bounce on some trees on my way down and I won't kill myself. And again, I love that, because I think I was doing a play and I was really scared of it. And that just gave me license to not know. That gave me license to sit in a place of fear and not knowing, and literally stepping into the unknown. And what I have found over the years, that's where the great joy is that, the minute I hear somebody in a writer's room or on a set, anybody go, I don't know. I just feel like I'm in the right space, because certainty, in my mind, is the killer of all of that. And that struggle that we have, we want to be good, we want to make it, we want to do it right, but we also want to keep ourselves open and not knowing. I think that's the great tension, and that's the struggle that we all have. I watched a documentary years ago about Yo-Yo Ma, and he was the soloist, the lead soloist for the Toronto Philharmonic Orchestra, and it was a young conductor who was doing his first stint there, and he'd invited Yo-Yo Ma to come and play the Dvorak cello concerto, and no one knows that concerto probably better than Yo-Yo Ma. And this young director wanted to do a whole bunch of different stuff with it. He wanted to put his mark on it. He wanted to try something out. And you looked at, and this was a great acting lesson for me, actually. He looked at Yo-Yo Ma, and you could see Yo-Yo Ma kind of going, he's got way more experience. But instead of blocking it, instead of going, I know that won't work, he smiled and giggled and said yes and had a ball. And it was such a wonderful lesson in creativity, is that I feel the instinct, and we all do. I've been in all those environments, and writing environments, and making it environments where people go, no, that won't work. I've done it. No, my character wouldn't do this. This character wouldn't do this. And what I took from that is even though he knew a lot, he decided to be the guy that didn't know anything, and decided to fall out of a plane backwards with a guy who was less experienced than he was, but wanted to try something out. And because he's a deeply creative spirit, he did it with a smile and a giggle and a laugh. And I suspect that's where that's where I always want to try and start from. Thank you.
The Big Screen Symposium 2024 was presented by Script to Screen. We gratefully thank our event partners, the New Zealand Film Commission, Images and Sound, New Zealand On Air and Te Mangai Paho. Voiceover is by Jamie Irvine and the music is by Poddington Bear. You can read more about these speakers at our website, www.bigscreensymposium.com. This podcast is brought to you thanks to generous support from Images and Sound.